The struggle. The desert was wide, endless, and cruel. Every step the man took was heavy. His shoes were broken, his clothes were torn, and his stomach had been empty for 2 days. He was just another human left behind on a dying world, struggling to survive one more day. His name was not important anymore. Once he had a job, a family, and dreams. But those things had burned away when the colony fell. Now he was only a shadow of who he once was. His only goal was simple: find food, find water, and stay alive until tomorrow. The sun beat down, hot and merciless. The ground cracked under his feet. He carried a small bag filled with scraps of metal and wire, things he collected in the hope of trading with anyone he might find. But he had not seen another human for weeks. Loneliness pressed against him harder than hunger. At night, the desert grew cold. The wind carried strange sounds, howls that were not human, whispers that came from the rocks. He told himself it was just the wind, but deep inside, he was never sure. This world had many secrets, and most of them were dangerous. One night, while searching for a place to rest, he saw something unusual. Far in the distance, faint lights flickered. They were not the fire of bandits, not the glow of machines. These lights were soft, pale, and almost alive. His tired eyes widened. Hope or danger he did not know, but his feet moved toward the glow. Hours passed as he walked across the sand. The light seemed to pull him forward. The air grew colder and the ground began to change. He stepped into a hidden canyon, its walls carved with strange symbols that shimmered faintly in the dark. The deeper he went, the more he felt watched. So, the end of the canyon, he found an opening, a doorway leading underground. The air smelled different there, old and heavy, like a place untouched for centuries. His heart raced. Curiosity battled with fear, but curiosity won. With slow steps, he entered the hidden chamber. The place was vast, the ceiling arched high, glowing faintly with crystals. The floor was smooth stone, and strange markings ran across it like rivers of light. At the center of the chamber stood a pillar, tall and carved with alien runes. And bound to that pillar was a figure. He froze. His breath caught in his chest. It was a girl. No, not fully human. Her skin glowed softly, like starlight trapped under flesh. Her hair shimmered silver, flowing even without wind. Chains of dark metal held her wrists and ankles against the pillar. Around her neck hung a simple wooden sign written in crude letters: "Take as you please." The man's eyes widened, his body tensed, ready to run. He had seen many cruel things in his life, but never something like this. Who had left her here? Why was she bound in such a place? For a long moment he could not move. Fear rooted him in place. The girl's eyes were closed, her body still as if she slept. He wanted to believe it was a trick, some trap left by raiders, but deep inside, something told him this was different. He took a cautious step closer. The air around the pillar felt heavy, charged with unseen energy. His heart pounded faster with every step. He could hear his own breath echoing in the silence of the chamber. Then her eyes opened. They were bright, alien eyes, shining blue, filled with something both strange and familiar. For a second, they looked right into him, as if reading his soul. He froze again, caught by her gaze. Her lips moved. Her voice was soft, weak yet clear. "Don't free me," she whispered. The man stepped back, his heart thundering. The sound of her voice was like music and warning at the same time. She looked at him with pleading eyes. "Don't. It's a trap." The words echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the stone walls. The man swallowed hard. His throat was dry, but not from thirst. His instincts screamed at him to leave, to turn around and never return. Yet his feet did not move. The carvings on the walls glowed faintly now, as if awakened by her voice. They told stories. Figures kneeling before, God's punishments carved into flesh, chains of light binding prisoners. He stared, his mind racing. Why was she chained here? Who had written those cruel words on the sign? And most of all, why did she beg him not to save her? The man stood there, torn between fear and pity. His life had been full of struggle, pain, and loss. But something about this alien girl pulled at his heart. He had spent years surviving for nothing. Now, for the first time, he felt like he had stumbled onto something bigger than himself. The chamber grew colder. A faint tremor shook the ground beneath his feet. It was as if the place itself had awakened, aware of his presence. He realized then, whatever choice he made next would change everything. He could turn and leave, walk back into the empty desert, and forget what he had seen. Or he could stay, and face whatever waited in the shadows of this ancient place. The girl's glowing eyes never left his. Her weak voice echoed once more, "Don't free me, or you will take my punishment." The man's heart pounded in his chest. Alone, starving, broken by years of struggle, he now faced a mystery that could cost him more than his life. And yet, deep inside, he knew. He could not walk away. Warning, the man's heart was still racing. The alien girl's glowing eyes watched him from the pillar, her words echoing in his mind. "Don't free me. It's a trap." He stepped back, his hands shaking. His whole life had been about finding food, water, shelter, simple struggles. But this was different. This was something larger, something that felt heavy with meaning. The chamber around him was silent, yet alive. Strange lights pulsed inside the carvings on the walls. They seemed to move, telling stories of battles and punishments. He saw shapes, of humans or maybe not humans, kneeling before giant beings with wings of fire. He saw chains falling from the sky, wrapping around figures who cried out in pain. He saw pillars like this one, glowing, with victims bound to them. The man's throat was dry. He wanted to ask questions, but his voice would not come out. The girl's silver hair shifted slightly, though there was no wind. Her lips trembled as she spoke again. "You must leave," she whispered. "If you stay, they will see you. If you touch the chains, their eyes will fall on you too." The man frowned. "Who will see me?" he asked finally, his voice hoarse. Her gaze flickered toward the walls, toward the glowing carvings. "The Watchers," she said softly. "They are always watching. They punish. They test. They never forgive." The word sent a chill through him. He turned his eyes back to the sign that hung around her neck. "Take as you please." The message was simple, but the meaning twisted in his mind. Was she a gift, a warning, a trap left for anyone who found her? The girl shook her head weakly as if she knew what he was thinking. "The sign is a lie," she whispered. "If you take me, you take my curse." The man felt a cold wave roll down his back. He had seen traps before, but never like this. The raiders built snares, simple things with spikes and nets. This was something deeper, older. It felt alive, like the chamber itself was waiting for him to decide. He wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at him to turn and leave. But his feet would not move. Something about her voice, soft, broken, desperate, held him in place. The silence of the chamber grew heavier. The crystals above glowed brighter, then dimmed as if breathing. He could feel his heartbeat echoing in the stone beneath his feet. The girl's eyes closed for a moment, as if she was fighting sleep. When they opened again, they shone brighter, full of both sorrow and warning. "I was not meant to be saved," she said. "I was meant to be forgotten." The man's hands curled into fists. He thought of his own life, how forgotten he had been. A human left behind, starving in the ruins of a world no one cared about. Was this alien girl the same? Cast away, abandoned, chained like an object? "Why are you here?" he asked suddenly, his voice louder than he expected. Her eyes shimmered. She looked at him for a long time before answering. "Because I broke the law of my kind. Because I chose mercy when they demanded cruelty. Because I loved when they demanded obedience." Her voice shook, the words almost too heavy for her lips. "And so, They bound me. They said I would remain here until another took my place. The chamber trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The carvings on the walls flared with light, showing again the figures kneeling, the chains binding, the endless punishment. The man stared. Another takes your place? He repeated slowly. Her head bowed. Yes. Whoever frees me becomes the prisoner. The punishment passes on. That is the law. The air grew colder, heavy like ice pressing on his skin. He felt the weight of her words settle inside him. To free her meant to be cursed. To walk away meant leaving her behind, bound forever. The girl's chains rattled softly as she shifted. She looked so weak, her glowing skin dimming with every breath. Her eyes begged him not for freedom, but for understanding. I don't want you to suffer, she whispered. I don't want you to make my mistake. The man turned in a slow circle, looking at the chamber. The glowing carvings now seemed alive. The eyes in the drawings watching him, judging him. He could almost hear whispers, though no mouth spoke them. Choose. 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 He clenched his jaw. His life had been full of suffering already. Hunger, loss, loneliness. Would one more burden break him? Or was this his chance to find meaning? Beyond just surviving? He looked at her again, the silver-haired alien glowing softly against the cold pillar. She was a prisoner, but she was also alive. More alive than he had felt in years. He stepped closer, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The girl's eyes widened in fear. No, she said, her voice trembling. Don't do it. If you break these chains, you take the curse. It will burn you. It will own you. You don't understand. Her words cut off as the chamber shook again. The crystals above flashed, and the whispers grew louder. 100 unseen voices filling the air. The man covered his ears, but the sound was inside his skull, not outside. Take her. Take her. Take her. He fell to his knees, gasping. His vision blurred. The girl cried out, her chains clattering against the pillar as she struggled weakly. Leave, she begged. Please, leave before it's too late. But as he lifted his head, through the pain and the whispers, he saw her face clearly. Her eyes, though filled with fear, also carried a spark of hope. A hope she herself was trying to bury. And in that moment the man knew. His choice would not be simple. It would decide not only her fate, but his own. The chamber grew still, waiting, watching, and the man, broken and starving, stood caught between two paths. Walk away into emptiness, or stay and take the first step into the unknown. The choice, the we. Man stood frozen in the chamber, his eyes locked on the alien girl bound to the pillar. Her chains rattled softly as she struggled weakly, her glowing skin dimming with every breath. Her warning still echoed inside his mind. If you free me, you take my punishment. The words twisted through his thoughts like a knife. He had survived hunger, thirst, loneliness. But could he survive a curse? Could he carry a burden meant for an alien being, a punishment created by powers far older than humans? He looked at his hands, scarred, dirty, trembling. They had built, they had fought, they had taken scraps from the ruins just to keep him alive. What could these hands do now? Save her? Or doom himself? The chamber around him seemed to breathe. The glowing symbols on the walls pulsed with faint light like beating hearts. The silence was heavy, but underneath it, whispers curled in the air. The man could not understand the words, yet he felt their meaning. Choose. 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 He turned, his eyes back to the girl. She was watching him, her strange alien eyes filled with both fear and hope. She shook her head slowly. You don't understand, she said softly. My punishment is endless. It is not hunger or pain. It is worse. It will change you. It will take everything. Her voice broke. If you free me, you will no longer be you. The man's chest tightened. For a long moment he said nothing. His life had been stripped bare already. No family, no home, no future. What was left of him to take? Still, fear gnawed at him. He was not a hero. He was just a broken survivor in a dying world. Saving her might mean destroying himself. He looked at the sign again. Take as you please. The words mocked him. They were not an invitation. They were a trap. A cruel trick to tempt pity, to force someone to make a terrible choice. The man closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he tried to remember his past. Not the ruins, not the hunger, not the endless desert, but the time before. He remembered laughter. He remembered a warm hand in his. He remembered caring for someone other than himself. That memory hurt more than his empty stomach. When his eyes opened again, they burned with something new, a fire that had been buried under years of survival. He took a step forward. The girl gasped. No, don't. Another step. Her chains rattled louder as she pulled back, shaking her head. Please, I beg you. Don't take it. Don't take my curse. But the man's face was calm. His voice, when it came, was rough but steady. All my life, he said slowly, I have survived for nothing. Every day I fight to live, but for what? Dust? Hunger? Silence? Maybe this is the first time I have found something worth more than myself. Her glowing eyes widened, filling with tears. You don't know what you're doing. He stopped just inches from the pillar. The air around it felt heavy, burning his skin, pressing on his chest. It was as if invisible hands were warning him to stay away, but he lifted his hand anyway. The whispers rose to screams. The chamber shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. The glowing symbols on the walls flared alive with fire and shadow. The girl cried out, Stop! You don't have to do this! The man's hand touched the chain. It burned like fire. His skin sizzled, his nerves screamed. But he did not pull back. His jaw clenched, his breath ragged. He pulled hard. The chain rattled, then cracked with a sound like thunder. A burst of light blinded him. The girl screamed as her body collapsed forward, no longer held upright by the chains. The man caught her before she fell, his arms shaking under the strange warmth of her glowing skin. The chamber roared. The walls seemed to cry out. The whispers turned into one terrible voice that filled his skull. The punishment transfers. The man fell to his knees, clutching her. His body shook violently as burning marks spread across his arms and chest, glowing like fire carved into flesh. He gasped, but no sound came. The girl looked at him, her eyes wide with shock and sorrow. Why did you do this? She whispered. His voice was faint, trembling with pain. Because no one else would. Her tears glimmered as she touched his face. You fool, she said softly. You gave everything. For me. The ground shook again, harder this time. Cracks split across the floor, glowing with light. The chamber was collapsing or maybe transforming. The air grew heavy with unseen power. The man struggled to breathe, his vision blurred, the world spinning. He could hear voices inside his mind now, hundreds, maybe thousands, screaming, laughing, cursing. The punishment had found him. But through the noise, through the pain, he heard her voice again, soft and trembling. Hold on, please. Hold on. I won't let you face this alone. The man forced his eyes open. She was free now, kneeling beside him, her chains lying broken on the stone. She glowed brighter than before, her silver hair flowing like liquid light, and for the first time in years, the man smiled, weak, pained, but real. The choice was made. The punishment was his. But she was free. The chamber roared louder, the light swallowing everything, and together, man and alien girl stumbled toward the darkness beyond the pillar, where something even greater waited for them. The release. The chamber shook as the last chain shattered. The sound echoed like thunder rolling through stone. The alien girl collapsed forward, falling into the man's arms. Her body was light, warm, and strange. Her skin glowed softly as if starlight had been poured into her veins. For a brief moment he felt peace holding her. But then the peace broke. A voice crashed into his mind. The punishment transfers. The words were not spoken aloud. They were carved into his very thoughts. His body convulsed. Burning marks spread across his arms and chest, glowing like fire etched under his skin. He gasped, choking on air, his vision blurring with white light. The girl's eyes widened in horror. "No," she whispered. "It's happening already." The man groaned, falling to his knees with her still in his arms. The stone floor cracked beneath him as the glowing marks burned brighter. It felt like something ancient and merciless was clawing its way inside his soul. The chamber roared to life. The glowing carvings on the walls shifted, showing new images. Humans and aliens alike screaming as chains of light dragged them into fire. Their mouths opened wide, but their eyes were empty. The man pressed his forehead against the cold stone, trying to breathe. "What is happening to me?" he rasped. The girl placed her trembling hands on his shoulders. Her voice was soft, but filled with sorrow. The punishment was waiting. It was always waiting. The moment you freed me, it claimed you. He looked up at her with pain in his eyes. "What is it?" She lowered her gaze. "It is not one punishment. It is all punishments. Every sin, every crime judged by the Watchers, carried by one soul at a time. That soul was mine. Now it is yours." The man's jaw tightened as another wave of agony tore through him. It felt as if thousands of voices screamed inside his bones. His vision flickered between light and darkness, the chamber twisting around him. He collapsed again, but she caught him, pulling him against her weak frame. Though small compared to him, she held him with strength born of desperation. "Stay with me," she whispered fiercely. "Don't give in. If you give in, the punishment will consume you. It will make you one of them." "One of them?" he managed to ask. Her glowing eyes met his. "A watcher, a being with no mercy, no heart. That is what the punishment creates. That is what I was becoming until I resisted. That is why they chained me." The man stared at her, the truth sinking like ice into his chest. He had not only freed her, he had chosen to become the very thing she had been fighting against. The chamber shook harder. Stones broke loose from the ceiling. The glowing cracks on the floor widened, spilling light as bright as fire. From the darkness beyond, shapes began to crawl. Shadowy figures with twisted limbs and burning eyes. They emerged from the cracks, like spirits made of smoke and flame. The girl's eyes went wide. "They've come. The guardians of the curse. They will not let us leave." The man forced himself to his feet, even as pain racked his body. The glowing marks across his skin pulsed in rhythm with the shadows. They called to him, whispering promises of strength, of power. "Join us. Become one of us. Command us." His hands shook. He could feel their power waiting, eager to obey him. He realized with horror that the punishment was not only pain, it was temptation. If he gave in, the shadows would follow him. If he resisted, they would tear him apart. The girl grabbed his arm, her touch grounding him. "Don't listen to them. Please fight it. Stay human." The shadows crept closer, circling. Their mouths opened, whispering words that made no sense yet filled the chamber like poison. The man's breath grew ragged, his vision blurred, but he held on to one thought, the girl in his arms, the one he had freed. "I won't give you back," he said through clenched teeth. Then, with all his strength, he pulled her toward the far side of the chamber. The floor cracked under his steps, light chasing their feet as they ran. The shadows screamed, their forms stretching, like smoke as they lunged. The girl lifted her hand and a wave of silver light burst from her palm, forcing them back for a moment. But the effort drained her. She stumbled, nearly falling. The man caught her again, pulling her forward. The chamber behind them collapsed, stone and light crashing together in chaos. The whispers turned to roars, the voice of the punishment booming once more in his mind. "You belong to us now." The man shook his head, gritting his teeth. "No, I belong to no one." They reached a narrow tunnel at the edge of the chamber. Without looking back, he carried her inside. The shadows howled, but the collapsing stone sealed the entrance behind them, cutting off the voices, at least for now. In the darkness of the tunnel, the man leaned against the wall, panting hard. The glowing marks still burned across his skin, but the silence was a relief compared to the screams. The girl looked at him with sorrow and wonder. "You should not have done this," she whispered. "But you did. You freed me. And now, we are bound together." The man met her gaze. His body shook with pain, but his eyes held a stubborn fire. "Then we fight together," he said. The tunnel stretched into darkness ahead. The punishment burned inside him, waiting, whispering. The girl stayed close, her faint glow lighting the path. And though fear filled his heart, one truth remained clear. There was no turning back. The pursuit. The tunnel stretched ahead, dark and endless. The man's breath was heavy, every step echoing against the stone walls. His arms trembled from holding the alien girl, but he refused to let go. Behind them, the chamber had collapsed. Yet the whispers had not ended. They still curled through his mind like smoke, cold and sharp. "You cannot run. You are ours now." He clenched his teeth, shaking his head as if that could silence the voices, but they only laughed, dark and cruel. The girl's faint glow lit their path. Her silver hair shimmered, her face pale with exhaustion. She leaned against him, her steps unsteady. "We must keep moving," she whispered. "They will not stop. The guardians never stop." The man glanced over his shoulder. His heart froze. Shadows spilled into the tunnel, crawling across the walls like living smoke. Their burning eyes lit the darkness, their twisted forms dragging forward with inhuman speed. "They've found us," he muttered. The girl gripped his arm tighter. "Run." And so he ran. The tunnel shook as the shadows gave chase. Their whispers grew louder, filling the air with promises and threats. "Take our power. Accept us. You are already one of us." The man's body burned with every step. The glowing marks carved across his skin pulsed brighter, as if answering the shadow's call. The curse inside him wanted to rise, to open the door to the very things, hunting them. His mind screamed with conflict. If he accepted their power, maybe he could fight them. But if he gave in, would he still be himself? Or would he become the monster the girl had warned him about? The tunnel split into two paths. He stopped, chest heaving, unsure which way to go. The shadows were closing fast, their whispers now deafening. The girl touched the wall, closing her eyes. A faint silver glow spread from her hand into the stone. After a moment, she opened her eyes again. "Left," she said firmly. "The right path leads to the pits. We will not survive there." Without hesitation, he turned left. The ground sloped downward, deeper into the earth. The air grew colder, damp, filled with the smell of ancient dust. But the shadows did not slow. They crawled after them, their forms stretching, slipping through cracks, filling every corner of the tunnel. The girl stumbled, nearly falling. The man caught her, lifting her into his arms. "Hold on," he muttered. Her voice was weak, trembling. "You cannot carry both me and the curse forever. It will break you." The man gritted his teeth. "Then let it break me. But I'm not leaving you." The glowing marks on his skin flared again, brighter this time. The shadows shrieked, pulling back for a moment as if the light burned them. The man gasped, dropping to one knee. The pain was unbearable, but he realized something. The curse inside him could hurt them. The shadows screamed, pulling back into the darkness. But their voices hissed inside his head. "Yes. Use us. Command us. We are your strength. We are your army." The man clutched his head, struggling to keep control. He felt the thin line between resisting and surrendering. If he gave in, the shadows would obey him. But if he obeyed them, he would lose everything. The girl knelt beside him, her glowing hand pressing against his chest. "Fight it," she whispered. "You are still human. Don't let them take that from you." Her touch cooled the burning mark slightly, enough for him to breathe again. He forced himself to stand, though his body shook violently. The shadows regrouped, filling the tunnel once more. They hissed and snarled, crawling over each other like a tide of black fire. The man pulled the girl close. "We have to move faster," he said. They ran again, the tunnel twisting and turning. Every step echoed with the sound of pursuit. The shadows pressed closer, filling the air with their poisonous whispers. At last, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. Stalactites hung like teeth from the ceiling. Pools of glowing liquid dotted the floor, casting eerie light across the stone walls. The girl gasped, her eyes wide. "The Temple of the Broken." The man frowned. "What is this place?" She shook her head. "A sanctuary once, but now, it may be the only place we can make a stand." The shadows poured into the cavern behind them, shrieking as they spread across the walls. The man's chest heaved, his muscles burning. He could not run forever. He turned to face them, his fists clenched. The glowing marks on his skin flared once more, and the shadows shrieked as if in pain. The girl's voice trembled. "If you fight them, the curse will grow stronger inside you. Every strike you make with their power will bind you closer to them." The man's jaw tightened. "If I don't fight, then we both die here." The shadows lunged, the cavern shook, and the man raised his burning hands, ready to face the darkness, the truth. The cavern trembled as the shadows swarmed, their burning eyes filling the darkness. The man stood at the center, his arms burning with the curse, the alien girl at his side. For a moment, time slowed. The whispers filled his skull, pressing like knives against his mind. "Strike them, command them, become us." He clenched his fists. His glowing scars pulsed brighter. With a roar, he thrust his arms outward. A blast of burning light tore through the cavern. The shadows shrieked, their bodies unraveling into smoke. The ground shook as they recoiled, crawling back into the cracks of the walls. For now they were gone. The man dropped to his knees, gasping for air. His body shook, the pain unbearable. Every time he used the curse, it carved deeper into him. The girl knelt beside him, her glowing hands pressing against his skin. Her touch cooled the fire slightly, though his scars still burned. "You should not have done that," she whispered. "Every time you use their power, they take more of you." The man lifted his head, sweat dripping from his brow. "Then tell me, what exactly have I taken?" The girl lowered her eyes. Silence stretched between them, heavy and painful. Finally she spoke, her voice soft, trembling. "The curse is older than your world," she said. "It was born from the Watchers, the beings who rule in silence. They judge every living thing. When one breaks their law, the punishment is endless. It does not end with death. It binds to the soul." The man frowned. "And you?" Her silver hair glowed faintly as she looked at him. "I broke their law. I refused to kill when they commanded me to. I spared an enemy. For mercy I was punished. They made me the bearer of the curse, bound me to that pillar so my suffering would be endless, and so that all who saw me would know their power." Her voice cracked. "I was meant to be a warning. To show others that kindness is weakness, that love has no place among them." The man stared at her, anger rising in his chest. "So they chained you because you chose mercy?" She nodded, her eyes glistening with sorrow. The man's fists tightened. He had seen cruelty in his own world. Raiders burning homes, leaders abandoning the weak, humans destroying each other. But this was worse. Punishment for kindness, torture for mercy. The girl's voice dropped lower. But there is more. The curse. It is not only pain. It tempts, it whispers, it offers power. That is how the Watchers grow. Each bearer who surrenders becomes one of them. That is how they spread. The man's heart sank. He remembered the whispers in his head, the shadows promising him strength. He had already felt the temptation. The line between resisting and surrendering was razor thin. "And if I give in?" he asked quietly. Her eyes met his, glowing bright and fearful. "Then you will no longer be human. You will be a Watcher, a creature with no soul, no heart. The very thing I tried not to become." Silence fell again. The man's breath was heavy, his chest burning with every inhale. He had carried many burdens in his life, but none like this. He was not just fighting hunger or loneliness anymore. He was fighting for his very soul. The girl touched his shoulder gently. "You saved me when I told you not to. You gave yourself to the curse when you did not have to. Why? Why would you sacrifice yourself for a stranger?" The man's eyes softened. His voice was low, rough. "Because I was tired of surviving for nothing. Because leaving you there would have made me less than human. And I'd rather die cursed than live empty." Her lips trembled. For a long moment she said nothing. Then a tear slipped down her glowing cheek. "No one has ever said that to me before." The cavern trembled again. The shadows stirred in the cracks, whispering louder. They were not gone. They were waiting, patient. The girl stood, pulling him gently to his feet. "We cannot stay here. The curse grows stronger the longer you carry it. We must reach the temple above. There may be a way to fight it there." The man staggered, but nodded. "Then let's go." They began to climb through a narrow passage, the cavern's eerie light fading behind them. The path was steep, jagged rocks cutting into their hands. The man's body shook with weakness, the glowing marks burning, brighter with every step. The voices inside him grew louder. "You cannot escape. You belong to us. She freed herself at your cost. She will abandon you too." He shook his head, trying to silence them, but the doubt crept in. Would she leave him behind once he became too dangerous? The girl glanced back, her glowing eyes catching. "Ignore them," she said firmly. "They will twist every thought you have, but I will not leave you, not now, not ever." The man breathed deeply, holding on to her words like a lifeline. At last, they reached a ledge that opened to the surface. The night sky spread above them, stars shimmering across the dark horizon. The air was cold, clean, and sharp. The man collapsed onto the stone, breathing hard. The girl knelt beside him, her glow reflecting the stars. For a moment, there was silence, peaceful, almost beautiful. But deep inside, the man knew it would not last. The curse was still inside him, waiting, growing. And soon he would have to make a choice far greater than freeing her. The final choice. The night sky stretched wide above them, endless and cold. The man lay on the stone ledge, his chest heaving, the glowing marks burning brighter than ever. Each pulse of light carved deeper into his skin, deeper into his soul. Beside him, the alien girl knelt, her silver hair shimmering under the starlight. She pressed her glowing hands against his arms, trying to cool the fire within him. But the marks resisted, burning hotter as if mocking her efforts. The whispers filled his skull louder than ever. "Why fight us? We are your strength. Accept us, and you will never suffer again. Command us. Rule us. Become more than human." The man groaned, clutching his head. The voices were not just words now. They were feelings, images, visions. He saw himself standing, tall, an army of shadows kneeling at his feet. He saw power flowing through his hands, power to crush enemies, power to never be weak again. But in those same visions, he saw his eyes, empty, cold, inhuman. The girl leaned close, her voice urgent. "Listen to me. You still have a choice. The curse is strong, but it cannot take you unless you surrender." Her words fought against the storm inside his mind. What choice? He gasped. If I resist, it tears me apart. If I give in, I become one of them. Her eyes softened, filled with sorrow and hope. There is a third path. Sacrifice. He stared at her, his breath catching. Sacrifice? She nodded slowly. The Watchers never expected anyone to take the curse for another. They never understood mercy. If you give yourself fully, not to them, but against them, you may break the chain forever. You may destroy the curse. Her voice trembled. But it will kill you. The man fell silent. The stars above blurred in his vision as the whispers screamed louder. Don't listen. She lies. She will abandon you once you are gone. Choose us. Live forever. He clenched his fists, struggling to block them out. His life had been nothing but struggle, hunger, thirst, loneliness. He had survived every day for no reason at all. But now, for the first time, he had a reason. A choice that mattered. The girl's hand touched his cheek gently. You don't have to do this. I would not blame you if you chose life. Even if it means becoming one of them. Her words were honest, heavy with pain. She did not beg. She did not force. She left the choice to him. The man looked into her glowing eyes. He saw fear, yes, but also hope. The fragile kind. The kind that had been buried for years under chains and punishment. He took a deep breath. His voice was rough, but steady. I've been dead inside for a long time. Maybe this is how I finally live. By giving life back to someone else. Her eyes widened, tears glimmering. No, she whispered. Don't say that. But he smiled, weak and pained. You asked me why I saved you. It wasn't because I'm strong, it was because I wanted to feel human again. And this is the only way. He staggered to his feet, the glowing marks blazing like fire. The ground beneath him cracked, light spilling upward. The whispers roared furious. Fool, you are ours. You cannot escape us. The girl reached for him, her voice breaking. Wait, don't. There must be another way. He turned, meeting her, eyes one last time. Take your freedom. Take your second chance, live. Before she could stop him, he stepped onto the glowing crack at the center of the ledge. The marks across his body flared, brighter than the stars above. The light consumed him, burning away. Flesh, bone, everything. His scream echoed across the night, not of fear but of defiance. The whispers shrieked in rage. The shadows writhed, twisting in pain. The cavern behind them collapsed, swallowed in fire and light. The girl shielded her eyes, tears streaming down her face. No, she whispered. Not like this. And then silence. The light faded. The ledge was empty. The man was gone. But the curse was gone too. The glowing marks, the whispers, the shadows. They were no more. The night was still. The stars shone brighter, as if the universe itself had sighed in relief. The girl fell to her knees, trembling. For the first time in centuries, she was free. But the cost weighed heavy on her heart. She pressed her hand to the stone where he had stood. It was still warm, faintly glowing. Thank you, she whispered through her tears. I will not waste the life you gave me. The wind carried her words into the night. She stood, her silver hair flowing, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The world was vast, dangerous, unknown, but she was no longer chained, and because of him she carried something new inside her. Hope. And though he was gone, his choice echoed in her heart. A choice that proved one simple truth. Even in the darkest corners of the universe, a human could defy the gods. And sometimes, mercy was stronger than power.